But then as soon as there's something that has any embellishment on it, the first thing they do, they touch it.
Touch it.
I mean, it's just a natural reaction. They want to touch it. And I think that, whether you're commercial printer or wide format printer, that's the special nature of just print. It connects people. And I think embellishments, much more so than just a standard, beautiful print, make that human connection.
What's up, everyone? It's Erik Vessels with Taktiful. Welcome back to another episode of Taktiful Tuesdays. I think we're on episode 29, approaching the big milestone 30. This is obviously Taktiful Tuesdays, where we dive into the art of elevating stories, especially through creative and digital embellishments in print and beyond. Today's guest is Erik Norman, president of swissQprint America. He's a seasoned growth strategist, speaker, nonprofit board member, and a true champion of combining innovation with industry impact. Under Erik's leadership, swissQprint has rolled out standout initiatives, from 36-month warranties that redefine customer trust to pushing sustainable and textured printing into new markets. He's worked on dynamic showcases like the Reboard booth and launched the Impala 5 demo tour across the Western US and Canada. Today, we'll explore how Erik blends creativity, tech, and customer focus to reshape large format printing. Let's get into it. Welcome, Erik.
Hey, Erik. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
I don't know what to say after that.
I've been doing these intros and I'm putting a little bit of work. I mean, obviously AI helps me a little bit. And I just make sure it doesn't hallucinate too much. But yeah, I have fun with that. Just kind of like bringing people into the show. And then obviously we're going to talk a little bit more and get to know a little bit more about you. But I want to start off with this idea of this customer first strategy.
Yeah.
You guys rolled out this 36-month warranty on new machines. Pretty bold move. I mean, that's it's a long period of time to do that. What was the inspiration, and how has it shifted customer trust and behavior?
Great question. So I would say really the genesis of this is our history going back to 2007. And we've always tracked predominantly the mean time between failure. And when talking to clients around the globe and asking them about our reputation and the values that we deliver to them, that incredible reliability has always been probably the hallmark item. I mean, they're just built to last. And so through debate and discussion, it's let's put it out there. The data supports it.
Mm-hmm.
The industry typically
Oh,
is.
it wasn't just willy-nilly. Let's do this and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't really willy nilly. But we in the U.S. our mean time between failure is over 24 months. So really, we felt it was a combination of not a lot of risk to make the decision, but we felt like it was the right thing to do from a customer standpoint, because that client first perspective, really, it's when we do our job right, we take a load off of our customers' shoulders, i.e. they don't have to worry about stuff. When they need to print, they can print. Their operators can enjoy working on the device. I mean, it's really, in the nutshell, it's if the clients are producing and doing well and being creative with the device and it's doing what it's supposed to do, they're super happy and they're making money. And our job is an enabler. If we can help them make money and take a load off their shoulders, we've done good by that. So we felt it was just the right thing to do, and it's been great. We get very good reviews from it. I think at the end of the day, I don't believe people are making decisions primarily because of a warranty or not. They're making the best choice for the tool that they need to put in the bag.
Sure.
But it helps, right? It takes some risk off the table for them.
Yeah, and I think it's, whether or not it's a buying decision factor, that I think it undoubtedly helps that long-term relationship basis with the customer, right? And as you know, and you and I've talked, we've known each other for a lot of years, had some drinks, had some dinners. We do business with people, and trust with people is really high at the top of that list. So I think that's a move to engender that trust over longer periods of time with customers. And I love it. I think it's a great move. The other thing that you guys are doing, and I want to just be clear for everybody watching, you guys are in the wide format space. Mm-hmm. swissQprint, huge brand known in that area. And we're definitely going to get into that. We don't, at Taktiful, haven't played as much sort of in that space.
Yeah.
We're definitely in the digital embellishment, commercial printing space with both toner devices and inkjet devices. But you discussed recently some new application areas for display graphics with what they think. I caught that. What market needs did you spot, and how is SwissQprint responding to those market needs and those applications?
Sure. Well, I would say maybe just in a very broad sense, our feeling is, and kind of say our feeling is because it's not from any, necessarily data, it's just the experiences with customers. Our feeling is that wide format printers and I think print in general, and you guys are helping to drive this as well, where they're looking for ways to add value and make print a little bit more alive for the customer. And you can do that by bringing new techniques to the table or showcasing how people can leverage techniques that are already available to them, but oftentimes just go unused or unrecognized. And so we see us aligning well with that general theme because we can do so much with our printers and including a lot of embellishment techniques, whether it's texture print or drop gloss techniques. We have we launched a new one called pyramid printing,
Yes.
which which is basically it
What
allows
is
you.
that?
Yeah, I mean it allows you to color shift essentially, right? I mean, and again, these aren't necessarily
Almost like a lenticular technique.
Braille, lenticular, the 3D effects, right, which is all done through the precise drop placement of varnishes building up a certain shape and size of a lens. So you get a magnification effect.
Nice.
And on the pyramid side, it's printing, literally, it's printing pyramids. And, they each have four sides. So you can put colors on them. And depending on your angle, then you see a color pattern or a blend. And, this is me kind of dumbing it down to my level and explanation, right? But
I also need that, Eric. So
there's some really cool things you can do. And frankly, we're always amazed when you give the right tools to the right craftsman, what they come back and create with it. And that's kind of the beauty of our industry is we put tools out there with a certain range of capabilities and then users go and figure out how to make really amazing works with it.
absolutely.
And that fits right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I've said this to you before, and I kind of want to talk about it a little bit. Is like I'll and we need to think broader in terms of what we're always trying to define, and we had this discussion at Amplify Print recently. Like, what is digital embellishment? How do we define it? What are we talking? And people forget wide format a lot of times, right? Like, I mean, but you guys have been doing really cool stuff, and by you guys, I mean that whole wide format
Sure.
category.
That's
I
right.
walk by your booths at trade shows and I'm just like, "Whoa, wait a minute. What is that? What do they do? What's
Yeah.
happening?" They're making that look like a painting brush strokes. They're making that look like how is that like there's texture to that. Talk a little bit about those embellishments in that wide format space and what's kind of happening there and where do you see it going?
Well, the varnish effects have always been front and center for us, but we see people incorporating combinations of maybe varnish as well as some of that drop ticks effect, the 3D lenticular effect, other techniques on a single piece to create just stunning visual effects. And it's always fascinating. I mean, I hearken back to remember the old book that Sappi put together, The Neuroscience of Print? It's,
Yeah.
it's, it's
So
dated, but it's
yeah.
still current, right?
They just actually they just updated that. Vicky Stroll did a presentation at
Okay.
Amplify Print talking about they've done some more work on that, and it's as you would expect,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
still a thing.
it's fascinating because when we're at a trade show and people walk through our booth and we showcase these application worlds and you stand back and watch, and as people go through and they look at all of I'll call it the flat file work, that's nice. They look at it, they may pause, they may make some sort of comment, but they move on. But then as soon as there's something that has any embellishment on it, the first thing they do, they touch it.
Touch it.
I mean, it's just a natural reaction. They want to touch it. And I think that whether you're commercial printer or wide format printer, that's the special nature of just print. It connects people. And I think embellishments much more so than just a standard, beautiful print make that human connection. So we're seeing people, whether it's on, cool effects on boxes with, metallics with texture or just, standard varnish effects, the raised print. We're seeing a lot of that. And where we see it starting to show up is interesting use cases. We've got customers that do embellished work on, they print onto a film that gets laminated on something, and they're doing decked out custom airplane interiors, for example. I mean, obviously everybody thinks of the home decor and the art reproduction space, et cetera. But
Sure.
people are branching out now and using large format print for all sorts of applications outside of what we typically think of as print. And some of that used to be on screen. Now it's going to digital, and they're still doing laminating processes. So we're printing on all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff.
That's awesome. I'm having like a Oprah Winfrey moment, like speaking to different segments of the industry. Like, you get an embellishment and you get an embellishment. Everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I think and you speak about like, I love the story that you're telling. We didn't prepare this. Like, I didn't coach you into this or anything. What we're teaching, and a lot of studies on the packaging side, is like, the first step is the more, as you know from the neuroscience of touch, the more senses that you can engage with someone, the more impact you're going to make, right? So
Right.
the first step is to get them to see it, right? So that's colors that pop. That's your
Hmm.
CMYK.
Yeah.
That's all the stuff that we've been doing really well for lots of years. But then if you can get them to touch it, now there's a different connection that moves them in a different way. And especially in the packaging space, we know that people are 62% more likely to make a purchase if they touch something.
Hmm. Hmm.
And not only that, there's a 33% premiumization rate. That means people are willing to pay 33% more for something that's embellished that they touch.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
good.
think that while there's different metrics for different areas of the industry, right? Like, obviously in packaging, you're talking purchase. In direct mail, you may be talking call to action. On the wide format side, it may just be how that campaign resonates in terms of like doing decor or doing point of sale or whatever it is. But it definitely makes an impact. And I love that you explained it in that way.
You know,
Unscripted.
the challenge, I think the challenging thing that we have, both probably from a tactful standpoint and our standpoint, is we can showcase that to printers, and they may inherently get it, and they might gravitate to, oh, I can sell it for 33% more, right? That's attractive, but they have to actually sell it.
Right.
So I think what we need to do as or, industry consultants and software providers, we have to bridge that gap, and we have to teach the organizations we're partnering with how to sell it. How do you talk the language of that? How do you actually get 33% more? And I think, we see this all the time. People will challenge back on that. Oh, but my organization can't sell that. My reps only sell this, or my reps only sell that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Customers
sometimes,
aren't asking for it. Like,
yes.
the
Yep.
whole nine, right?
And I think owners sometimes are maybe selling their teams a little short when they make those comments. Sometimes they're spot on, to be fair. But I think part of our obligation isn't, at swissQprint, it isn't just, hey, we've sold a printer, thank you very much. We'll sit back and wait for an ink order. No, our job needs to be, hey, we've sold you a printer. Now, how do we help you answer all the how do I do this kind of questions that you're inherently going to have? And let us help you figure it out. I mean, I think actually not too long ago, we had a customer got a high-end job, and it was basically white on white, right? So it was textured print. Effectively, like, we were printing like channel letters at a specific height that this brand specified, and it was white, ink on a white substrate for a very well-known global brand. And the print service provider is like, I don't even know what to do here. One, how do I get it to be exactly that height? What do I sell it for? I have no idea how to estimate this thing. So what our application team did is we talked to them and said, well, send us the file under non-disclosure. Send us the file. We ran the job. We came up with the process, how long it's going to take, fed it back and said, here's how you estimate this job. Here's how you run it. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. Why would you do that? I said, well, you got a job. You didn't know how to do it.
Yeah,
We're
if
going to
you
help you figure it out.
yeah, it does us no good if you're
Yeah,
not out there selling this stuff, right? Like,
exactly. And frankly, we you help a customer in that situation, but you know what, we also learn through that. We learn, what are they going through, what questions are they asking. Oh, this is an interesting use case, we haven't seen this sort of spec called out before.
yeah.
So we get a great takeaway from that as well,
Well,
and
I think that's
that's
what we're
fun.
Yeah, it's super fun, right? Because I always think that when I'm teaching boot camps as a part of our tactical division, and that's something that we do as well, right? We're educating, like we're trying to help the industry, but we partner with a lot of OEMs so that when they put a digital embellishment press in place, we will engage with their customer to take them through an 8-week journey of like, all right, how do you market it? How do you sell it? How do you run the press? Like all the things. But what we're finding is like we're learning as much as we're teaching. And I
That's
think
right.
that perspective of education is so healthy for the industry. And
Yes.
I love your story, right? Because like now you're learning a use case that guess what you can do as swissQprint, show other customers how to do that thing,
That's
whatever
right.
it is that you figured out, right? So it makes so much sense. I love what a great story. So I want to talk sustainability a little bit because I know that that's really a part of the swissQprint culture. I've spent a lot of time with you guys at different trade shows, really all over the world, and talked to a
Mhm.
lot of different people. The Reboard collaboration, showcasing printing on sustainable texture materials.
Yeah.
How do those projects resonate with print professionals and end users? And from an OEM perspective, how is that impacting how you do business?
Well, I think how it's resonating in the marketplace is, I mean, you see whether it's reboard or any other sustainable material. I mean, I think there's traction there, but there's always this, it comes down to the intersection of the brand wants it, but they don't necessarily want to pay for it.
Right.
So how do you find the right solution?
Exactly.
But we're seeing more brands wanting that, and we're seeing more and more use of it in trade shows, point of sale. So you can build that very elegant booth or display, and then you can tear it right down, and it just goes straight into the an environmental program. So I think it's gaining traction, and part of the reason we like working with Reboard is, quite frankly, we found that it just prints so consistently well, board to board to board, and
That's helpful.
it cuts beautifully. Its structural integrity is unbelievably strong,
Do you
and
think
so
we go
we like it.
sorry, go ahead.
I would just say, so we not that we don't work with the other ones. I mean, we're going to work with any material provider in the marketplace. We've just found in that space, Reboard's been very helpful, and I think they do a nice job in bringing, like you talked about your 8-week boot camp. They bring designers and creators and other people to the table to help their customers use it in interesting applications. So I like their post sale support structure as well.
That's great. Do you think we're at table stakes stage of sustainability? It feels like we might be.
Yeah, yes. I mean, you have to have an eye toward that, and you have to have real practices that you can showcase why when you say if sustainability is a focus, okay, well, what are you doing? So for us, I mean, it's the power in our manufacturing facility using geothermal and solar. It's low energy consumption, builds that we have. It's the durability of the build because it lasts for so long, right? So it's not going into any landfill structures. It's the close proximity of the whole supply chain to, not only quality manage, but minimize your energy consumption, carbon footprint. I mean, all of those things work together, and the entire ecosystem needs to have elements of sustainability in it. And then obviously we're in an industry, you are going to print on things that necessarily aren't sustainable themselves. And, inks are always undergoing change. I mean, there's just the whole industry has to manage this. And so I do think it's pretty close to table stakes or at table stakes. So I'd say you're spot on.
Yeah, it seems to me like sustainability, over the course of me watching the industry for what, a quarter century now, it started off as like this environmental thing, but it really made a shift when it started to make financial sense, right?
Yeah.
Like when it starts to impact the actual business side of
Yeah.
things and then there's a financial aspect to it, I think. And then obviously consumer shifting mindsets, which pushes
You know
their
you
customers.
know what, Eric? What I won't say it turned my opinion on sustainability, but I think the dots kind of all got connected for me. Years ago, when I was at, Bolger Printing in Minneapolis, we became, I think if my memory is right, I think we were the one of the first commercial printers in Minnesota for sure to become part of the SGP.
Mhm.
And so we went through SGP, and what that wasn't, focused on just environmentalism. It was sustainability in terms of your environmental practices, but also sustainability in terms of people and profits. And so I think that when all of the dots came together and you looked at the numbers and we looked and studied our client base and you saw what revenue you were generating based on your principles of sustainability, it became very, very evident that a focus on that and a true practice in that does pay. There is a return on that investment. And it is an investment. No fooling anybody.
For
It's an
sure.
investment, but there is a return on that investment. And we see that at swissQprint as well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, really good. I'm glad to see it because I think I mean, it's something that I felt strongly about years and years ago. So I'm glad that we're finally now starting to make business sense out of it. And I love your holistic take of it. Like, let's think sustainable, not just in terms of like inks and papers and stuff, but about people and business practice and manufacturing and the whole supply chain of that, I think
Right.
is a really healthy approach. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership and culture.
Mhm.
You recently celebrated internal recognition for your team's values and attitude. What's one core value that you foster, and how has it shaped your team's performance and kind of how you view things? Like,
Yeah.
what's a core value for you?
But I'd say one of the ones that I just kind of came to mind I would say energize. And you know what I mean? I mean, not like,
Are we talking morning jumping jacks?
no, not like Energizer Bunny or jack yourself up on caffeine. But I think that when you bring the right attitude, and not like, some hyper optimistic thing or rah, 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 but when you show up every day and you're willing to do what it takes and you're willing to help a client out or you're willing to help a coworker out and you're willing to go the extra mile and you do your job with excellence, that energizes the others around you. And when you energize the others around you and they lift up, organizations can do amazing things. And I don't necessarily, I mean, and I think a leadership perspective is kind of create that environment, but create the permission for those things to rise up. Maybe put some guardrails here and there, but I think that, plus who doesn't, we all know inherently, you walk into a room, you totally know who's got the energy and who doesn't, right?
Yeah. And I
And
think
you
what's
just
important
feel it
too
in the
is,
vibe.
yeah, I think authenticity is important there too, right? Because
Yeah,
it can't be toxic positivity because there
for
is
sure.
that, right?
For
Hey guys, that's good. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, it's just consistently, and I think the way I put it, it's showing up and it's doing stuff well, but you're doing it not so much for you, you're doing it because it's doing well for others. So it's like that client first perspective, right? If I can do something that's good for you, either in the moment or sometime down the road, right? We're gonna have transactions together, and those are gonna be good for us both in time, and
Absolutely.
it's not always in the moment. Sometimes it's just kind of planting the seed for later, but you're right.
Sure.
Authentically, you know, there's a great book, and I have all of our employees in the US read it, and they
I
give
want to
me all
hear it.
sorts of love. It's called The Go-Giver. It's a great little parable, a story about, you could be a go-getter or a go-giver, and I think the principle of that is, look, if you're doing enough good things for other people, good stuff's gonna happen to you too. And I
Is
don't
that
mean it in a weird sappy sense. It's like,
yeah,
just be a good human being, man, and do some cool stuff for people. That's all it is.
the go-giver. I love that. So I call that service mentality.
Yeah, yeah,
Like be of service, like
yeah,
be helpful, like do and I think for me at least personally, I feel like I've gotten there as I've gotten older.
yeah,
Like I've shed some of that like go get for me
yeah.
attitude and I don't know if it's just a product of aging and getting older. And I think it's what was it? Bill Cosby has the joke of like grandparents like that's not my parents. They're getting older and they're trying to get into heaven now. That's why they're
Yeah,
for the
it's
grandkids, right?
that's
But
probably the truth.
it's this we're saying the same thing, right? That
Yeah,
go-giver service mentality, like how can I be helpful? I always say nonstop, like in business, I try to give at least 4 times before I make
mhm,
an ask of someone,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
And I
good,
find that really cements a relationship with a person because it's just like, "Oh, Eric's this guy that's just been trying to help
yeah,
me.
yeah,
And now I can help him. So there you go, make an ask." Instead of out of the gate, like, "Hey, buy this thing from me." Like, what? I don't know you.
Right.
Like, what's
Right.
what's
Right.
going on?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Let's talk trade shows a little bit. So we saw each other at Graphics Canada. Printing United is another show. You connect with customers and partners alike. What's the most? Give me an enlightening conversation or something that you've seen or something that struck you at a recent show. Like, was a conversation maybe you had, something that
Struck.
you saw, or just talk to me about shows and like what you get out of them and what
Yeah. I mean, it's
they're
sort of like
important.
it's very, it's, well, I think while they are important, there's no doubt. I mean, look, all of us that participate in shows, we're always going to have this sort of, yin yang aspect feeling
Yeah,
about them, right?
for
Sometimes
sure.
you love them, sometimes,
Especially if you're setting up a booth and tearing down a booth. There's like, yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
but
I
we
think
can't have dinner virtually.
that's true. That's true. And that's important. And, the drinks following help, all that stuff is good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I still think it's a good way to get the feeling of what's happening in this community called print. And we talked about the haptic side of print too, but you get to have that human connection. And I do think it's important for people with, industrial equipment. You do need to see it. And not everybody's going to fly into Elgin or Irvine to come and look at a piece of equipment, but they're at the show, there's a chance to make new connections. I would say building those connections, reinforcing certain connections, making some new ones. I mean, that's of course the driver of the show. I would say they're not necessarily the primary lead driver, but you do.
Not the way they used to be.
Not the way they used to be, right? But we find every show we attend, something gets advanced, and it might be a relationship with another vendor partner.
It could be internal.
It's always relationships with current clients, potential new clients. We learn new things about what's happening in the industry. We have good conversations with competitive manufacturers. I mean, and as much as we compete, I mean, this is an industry of a lot of just dialogue and collaboration because we're all, at the end of the day, kind of trying to help the industry move forward.
Absolutely.
And that takes some partnering along the side. So I like the trade shows. I'm not really coming up with some like deep like move my world moment from a trade show.
Tell me about a conversation you had back in
Yeah, exactly.
2014 at this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's just a weird way to phrase the question. That was probably one of the AI things that came out of that. I do want to ask you a little bit because you are involved. You're a speaker, right? So you're a bit of an educator. You also serve as a nonprofit board member, maybe outside of the industry. How did those roles influence what you do in your work or you personally? What's the meaning behind doing things like that?
Well, I guess at a certain level, I guess I've always felt strongly that you need to be outside of your, you got a main lane that you're in. And I think we need to get outside of that. One, sometimes you can just get a little tunnel vision if you're just playing in one spot all the time. So it widens your view. You make wider connections. You get different viewpoints from different things happening on it. I think there's so much information changing and the world's moving so fast in business now that if you don't have some outside influences that you allow to kind of speak into your thoughts, you're really gonna be in trouble, and you're not gonna be as effective of a leader. So, on the nonprofit side, honestly, it's just great to participate in an organization that's helping underserved people, providing resources to underserved communities. And we're that nonprofit's called Lift Up, and essentially we're like a kind of like a crowdsourced platform, really for other nonprofits. So we facilitate fundraising and delivering of goods and services. And so that it's just I don't know, it's refreshing to take part in that. The speaking, which has been only very occasional of late, it's just fun to share and share perspectives. The other thing that always been a big believer in is peer group communities, whether they're industry based or non-industry based. I've always personally found value in getting around other peers. One, because they can help you problem solve faster. It's amazing how many times somebody who has no clue what you're talking about asks a question. They ask the question, and you're like,
Never thought of that. Damn it.
and you find the answer. So I love being in peer group communities, but I think all of that is a chance to give back, but it's also a chance to learn and widen your perspectives on life and work.
Yeah. And like most things, there's a lot of getting in the giving. Right? Like
Yeah, of course.
there's like that whole, I think I'm pretty out there on LinkedIn with like my spiritual practice. I'm a practicing Buddhist. And one of the things that we say a lot is giver, receiver, and gift are one.
Hmm.
Right? That's like one thing, different levels of that transaction.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, and I always ask this, we always like to dig down, find out who the person is. For unwinding, like having fun, hobbies, things that you like to do to kind of recharge, like what are some of those things? Talk to me, Eric.
Oh, that's super easy. When I need 45 minutes of yoga for my soul, there's a very nice cigar and a glass of bourbon involved, and it's like it's 45 minutes of just
My guy.
it's just
So wait a minute. I get
oh baby.
hang on, I'm having a revelation here. I get yoga credit for my bourbon and cigars.
It's all what you tell yourself.
As long as you're not doing the drunk yoga. Have you seen that?
No, no, no,
It's an
no.
Irish guy who's basically just
Yeah,
awkwardly passed out on a chair, and then they call it drunk yoga
yeah,
or
yeah.
Irish
No,
yoga.
I think you do things with it right with temp at a tempered pace, but no,
Yes.
that
Moderation, baby, moderation.
I find enjoyment in that, and
That's nice. That's nice.
golf,
So go-to bourbon.
pickleball, all sorts of things. What's that? My go-to?
Yeah.
I would my everyday is probably Angels every day, not literally every day, by the way.
Easy. He's like, "Hey, guys, no, not every single day."
Whoa, Angels envy
We
strong.
call it a daily drinker,
Yeah,
but we're not actually drinking daily.
correct. Yes, yes. People who know, right?
Yeah, yeah. Angels, nice one.
Blanton's is my top. Henry McKenna. I love Henry McKenna, Bottled and Bond.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Taylor. I mean, there's too many good choices to speak.
Yeah, I've got me a bottle of EHT. I just drove to Bardstown the other day. I was picking up. I
Yeah.
bought a couple of tables, and I was just like, oh, "There's so many rick houses in Bardstown. I mean, they're
Yeah.
everywhere because you got like 7, 8 distilleries in Bardstown. It's only like 30 minutes from where I'm at now,
Mhm.
where I live. And I was just like, "What is that smell?" I'm just like, "Oh my god, that's sour mash. The whole city smells like sour mash, Eric. It's glorious. This is like amazing."
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Good stuff.
That's
Well,
fun.
we have shared a drink before. I'm sure we will again. I'm sure that I will see you at Printing United
You
later in
will.
the year.
We'll
And
be there.
Eric, so great to have you on. I'm so glad we finally did this. And we got to get that wide format rep in there on the digital embellishment side.
Let's go. Hey, don't forget about wide format.
Don't forget about us,
Yeah, I
man.
mean, yeah,
We out
we're
here.
there. Yeah, that's right. Well, hey,
Thanks
thanks
for being on the
for
show,
having
brother.
me, Eric. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.